Good afternoon, and welcome to H3 TV, where we come to you every week and we talk about disruption. Disruption comes in little ways and big ways. Disruption happens to us, and also we sometimes choose disruption, disrupt our relationships, our career, even where we live. Disruption happens. But what we love to do on this talk show is every week come to you and give you ideas, strategies, tools for how do you stay hopeful, healthy, and happy facing a disruption. Or sometimes I say, in a hurting world, how do you find hope? I often meet people that are feeling hopeless, overwhelmed by their circumstances, professional circumstances or personal. And we love to come to you every week with ideas and a new person to meet and share them to encourage you on your journey. We love and encourage you to comment, share where you're listening from, ask us questions, leave a comment about what you're taking away and how you're going to implement it. Today, my guest is Winnie. Please help me welcome to the stage Winnie. Hey, Winnie, how are you?
Hi, Annie. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you. And this topic cannot be closer to my heart because I'm speaking from Los Angeles, where 2 months ago we had a wildfire that burned down 18,000 structure. And just to give everybody a perspective, a year and a half ago, Maui had a wildfire and they had 2,000 structures burned down. So this is 9 times the size of the wildfire of Maui. And
Wow. Winnie, why don't you just start slow? Let's just get to know you a little bit. So tell us, who are you? What do you do? And yes, where you live? You're in LA.
yes, my name is Winnie Chan Wang. I am the founder of Mindful Healing Heart. I actually have 4 science degrees, including computer science and business from MIT, marketing from NYU, and then my last degree is in acupuncture and herbal medicine. So it's really funny because when I was in college, I was hacking. And then later, I had a near-death car accident and also a spinal injury. And I started biohacking, like hacking my body. And then, of course, the soul, mind, body is related. So in hacking myself, imagine I can't sit in a chair for 10 minutes. And I cry day and night, 3 hours a day, twice a day, because it's very sad when you can't go to the movie theater or you can't sit on the beach chair when you just can't sit for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I,
Winnie, it
yeah,
sounds like you love education. Like, that's amazing to me that you have 4 degrees. I just got my bachelor's degree after 38 years of going to college. I have one. So you're way ahead of me. I want to just slow us down a little because you sound like you have a fascinating story. But, our listeners just want to get to know a little bit about you. So just if you can give us briefly, like when you think of the word disruption, what comes to mind to you?
yeah, I've had every kind of disruption where my spine is crooked, my family's broken, so I had a divorce, and failed businesses, uh, burned down communities. There's every kind of disruption that I have made through.
Yeah, amazing. So you have a lot of resilience. And I wrote a book called Choose to Soar, Navigating Disruption. And when I wrote about it, exactly what you're saying, Winnie, when we think of the word disruption, it can be a literal, like a fire. It can be a physical, right? Like our body, and it can be emotional, like a broken relationship. I want you to just pick one of the disruptions you faced. You can pick whatever one you want. And what what happened to your mind and body and spirit when you first tell us what the disruption was, and then what happened to you in the face of that disruption?
Yeah. So the most difficult disruption was my divorce.
Mhm.
And the reason is because there are 2 people involved in the divorce. And when I went through the first disruption, I knew, even though it was hopeless, but as long as I kept going to the doctor, if I got another degree, I believed that I could heal myself.
Mhm.
Now I have 2 children, and keeping the family together, it doesn't matter how hard I work. It doesn't matter how resilient I am. And it doesn't matter how hopeful I am. It takes 2 people, 2 willing participants to make something work.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does not matter how much I want it to work. And when the other person doesn't want to, then it doesn't work out. And so for me, the lesson was learning how to bring compassion and acceptance and soften myself a little bit, because sometimes not everybody wants to do the work. And how can we slow down and bring space and acceptance to those around us who don't want to do the work?
Yeah, I think that's really important. First, I didn't mention that you're wearing pink, but listeners, I love color, and I encourage my guests to always wear color. Pink is the color of friendliness and kindness, so I love your pink. Second, I want to say I think the hardest lesson in life, Winnie, and especially in facing a disruption, is the knowledge, the reinforced daily knowledge that we can only change ourselves, not other people. Sometimes that's the hardest part. I know I have a lot of listeners going through disruption in relationships, and that divorces can leave such a profound impact on them, even if they're choosing it, let alone if they're not. And doing the work not only to get along as you dissolve your marriage, but also if you're parenting together, to co-parent in a kind and loving way without speaking negativity about each other is really hard. And you can only control yourself. So in the face of divorce, since we're using this as our disruption today, how did you stay hopeful? I've never been divorced myself, but I have a lot of people in my life that have. So tell us, was there any strategies or tips or tools you used if someone's listening and they are feeling really hopeless about the end of a relationship?
Yes. The very simple motivation is this: a fish is only as healthy as the quality of the water. So if you put the fish in a clean tank, it will grow up clean. And if you put a fish in a dirty, filthy fish tank, it will grow up polluted. So it does not matter what happens to me in my life. I will only choose faith, hope, and love, because it is my duty and responsibility to keep the cleanest possible tank so my children can grow up in the cleanest possible vibrations.
So first, you thought about your kids. You thought about yourself, but you thought about your kids, and you thought, what? I want clean. What does clean look like? There's faith, hope, and love. Is that what you said?
Yes. So it does not matter if I experience moments of anger, hopeless, or fear. It's at once having compassion. Well, if you put 10 women in my shoes, 10 out of 10 would be very angry. Or if you put 10 women in my shoes, 10 out of 10 would be scared. But then the topic of space, it's like, imagine I'm cooking a pot of soup. Okay, so already in the soup, there is anger, there's fear, there's overwhelm, there's confusion, there are all these negativity. But mathematically, how do we get to zero when there's all this negativity? Is we add positive. So we add love, we add forgiveness, we add compassion, light, gratitude. And whenever I am in my humanity, which means I'm feeling anger and sad, I connect to the universe. I connect to the grace. Some people call this God, whatever your language or however you want to define this higher power. I call on the higher power to give me the love that I need, to give me the forgiveness, the compassion, the gratitude, to help me get back to the peace.
So your strategy is to maybe first be aware of what you're feeling, and I think we can never assume, because I know so many people that have gone through a divorce, and some never feel anger. They feel sad, or they feel regret that they didn't show up better for each other. And that we always know in relationships, it takes two to tango, and different things happen, different dynamics, different personalities, right? And so I think you're saying you were aware of your surroundings. And if anger was filling up your pot, filling up your soul, then that would burst out. And you were like, wait a minute, I want to refocus. I want to put love in there, and gratitude and generosity and faith in something greater than myself, greater than this moment in my life. And because I feel like our kids absorb what we feel, even if we don't use words. I'm much better at being sad than I am at being angry. Even when I'm mad, I'm crying. So I think that awareness is a great tip that you're teaching our listeners. Be aware of what's in your pot, be aware of what you're feeling, and then exchange. Get rid of some of that negative and darkness and fill it with love and hope and joy and faith. So that's beautiful. I always think about Winnie. For 12 years, I owned gyms. And a lot of times when I ask people, are you healthy? They go right to physical. But we know that health is at least 7 areas. It's emotional, it's mental, it's physical, it's financial health, it's spiritual health, it's relational and career. And when we're going through a disruption, like a big change in a relationship and a divorce, how did you stay healthy? Do you have like 3 specific things you did to take care of any of those areas of health, whether it was getting your finances in order or your spiritual health? What did you do that maybe could help our listeners to stay healthy when they do feel hopeless or overwhelmed by life?
Yes, I love this top 3 tips. I actually like to call it the top 5 tips, because when you're feeling bad, I say there's the 1 hour plan, the 1 day plan, the 1 week plan, the 1 month plan, and the 1 year plan. Right? Because if I have very, very dark thoughts, like I don't want to live anymore, telling me to meditate is not good, because there's no way I can sit down and do that. So when you're feeling very bad, the 1 hour plan is to go for a walk, to go hug a tree, to just get out of the house, change the situation. And I remember when I was very, very angry during the divorce, it's just like, it doesn't matter. It's at 1 a.m. I would put on my shoes and go out, and yes, even scream and punches in the air, because I knew in traditional Chinese medicine that anger is trapped in the liver. And I do not want, in this country, we have lots of breast cancer, ovarian cysts, chronic UTIs. So a lot of women think they don't have anger, but actually it's because it's suppressed, because we don't have the awareness. It is not possible to not experience anger, but we just don't have the technology to be aware of it. So knowing how devastating anger can affect our breast and our reproductive system, the moment anger rises, I put on my shoes and I go outside and I walk super fast, and I literally walk until I'm so tired. I have no energy to be angry anymore. Okay. So the 1 hour plan is physical exercise and outdoor. I exhaust my energy, so I cannot be angry.
Yeah, I always say movement is medicine. It really is. It's such a great relief of emotion and stress, and it's such a great release. And I love that you go fast, get it all out, release it out. There's a great writer, Dr. Carolyn Leaf, and I believe she wrote The Body Keeps Score. And I always think excellent people in the healing world recognize Western and Eastern medicine both have assets to offer us. We just have to figure out what's right, for us. How long ago did you get divorced? Can I ask?
Yes, it was 2021. So 4 years ago.
So pretty recent. Yeah, pretty recent stuff.
Yeah. So I want to cover the other tips. So 1 hour, go outside and do exercise.
Okay.
Get it out of the system.
Yes.
If you have 1 day, then find the nearest acupuncturist by going on Yelp. It is because acupuncture is like finding a plumber to find the blockages in your energy body, right? So what I said is anger is trapped in the liver, sadness is in the lungs, fear is in the kidneys, and so on and so forth. So the idea is, even if you're angry, but you don't have words, or you're sad, but you can't get it out, rather than crying 3 hours a day, every single day, because you have something in your plumbing system, like your toilet's not flushing. Well, hire a plumber, right? So when you go see an acupuncturist, they can physically restore your pipes so that your plumbing is working again. So that you don't have unproductive tears where you just cry and cry and cry, but you actually unblock these physical garbage that is stored in your body. So instead of the body keeps the score, well, hire an acupuncturist, take the trash out. So that's the 1 day plan.
Okay.
Yeah. So the 1 week plan is to find a talk therapist, because it is the mind that creates the feelings that get stuck in the body. In Harvard brain study, it says that a single thought generates the amount of chemicals that create feeling of sadness for 90 seconds. I repeat the statistics again, because a single thought generates the amount of chemicals for us to experience sadness for 90 seconds. That means if I can interrupt the thought, I can stop producing the chemicals that create the sadness. So actually, we don't have to dwell in sadness or hopelessness. If we can interrupt the thought, then there won't be the sadness to begin with. So the 1 week plan is, once you've done your exercise and once you've done the plumbing with an acupuncturist, go find a talk therapist, because we get to find out how our thinking is creating the sadness.
Yeah. And then do you have one more, 1 month?
Yeah. So the 1 month plan is to find a community, because when we go to a community, we find out, and this is exactly what Annie's doing. All of you watching right now live, hi. Because when we come in community and we share our grief together, we realize we're not alone. My pain is your pain and your pain is my pain. Oh my goodness, we all have the sickness. We all have the broken relationship. We all have the financial challenges, unemployment, etc. So step 4 is the heart-to-heart connection that happens when we get a group together.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. The last area I always think about in disruption is happiness, especially when you talk about kids. I'm a mom. My kids are all grown up, older than I am pretty much, but I love being a mom. And I didn't get to have a mom that was able to nurture and love in the way that I wanted. But I was really protective, not in a perfectionist way by any means, but I wanted my kids to have joy. I wanted them to feel safe at home, all these things. And so especially when you're going through a divorce, I know we have listeners like, how do you bring humor and happiness into your home when life is hard, when you have all these things going on? So what were some of the ways that you kept happiness and humor in your home and in your life for yourself and for your family?
That is the $1 million question, isn't it? Okay, so my spiritual father, Dr. and Master Jigong Sha, one sentence secret. The one sentence is, forgiveness brings inner peace and inner joy. And I say that again. Forgiveness brings inner peace and inner joy. So a lot of people say, oh, is forgiveness necessary? So, I'm just an open invitation. What I want to say is I'm an acupuncturist, and I've helped people see again, hear again, walk again. And a lot of these miracle healings is because they practice forgiveness 15 minutes a day, twice a day. And why it's so beneficial to practice forgiveness twice a day, 15 minutes a day. Now, I don't know about you. How long can you go without brushing your teeth? So just like we brush our teeth twice a day, it's recognizing that I am human, right? I am full of mistakes, and other people are full of mistakes. So if I practice forgiveness 15 minutes twice a day, then it's like brushing my teeth, but where I'm clearing my energy. Anything that makes me angry and sad it just cannot stick because I'm literally flushing the toilet for 15 minutes twice a day. So
Right.
the kind of joy is our true nature, right? You go to the playground, kids are playing on the swings, they're climbing the monkey bars, they're playing ball. Kids don't see gender, they don't see races, they don't go, I am white, you are Asian, they don't say, I am a woman, you are a man, they don't say, I'm good, I'm bad, they just want to play, right? So forgiveness is like taking an eraser in the brain and be like, okay, let me clean everything that makes me not be playful.
Yeah.
Let me erase, or backspace on everything that's giving me grief.
Yes.
And then so that's it. For me, it was a disciplined approach to practicing forgiveness, 15 minutes twice a day.
I love that. Did you do that exercise in front of or with your children? Did you implement happiness with them in any way through the divorce?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because my personal philosophy is that forgiveness cannot be taught, right? If I say to my child, hey, say, I'm sorry. If they say, I'm sorry, but they don't actually feel sorry,
Yeah.
then they'll just resent me because I forced them to say, I'm sorry. So, in my humble opinion, you can't teach gratitude either. If I say thank you, if they don't feel thankful, then that's just fake gratitude and fake forgiveness.
Yeah.
So, my humble opinion is that parents, we don't teach, we model.
That's
So,
what I was asking you. Did you ever show them what you were doing so they could have peace and happiness through a really painful thing that it does affect? Are the kids young? Or I shouldn't assume, yeah, that they're little, but
yeah, my children are 15 and 17. And for me, I just constantly model what I preach, which is like I constantly practice forgiveness, I constantly apologize, and I'm constantly thanking before every meal. I practice gratitude for everything and everyone. I thank you, Zoom. I thank you, YouTube. I thank you, StreamYard. I thank you, Annie. I thank you, your listeners. I thank you, everyone, for clicking like and leaving comments. You know, your participation is very important to the success of this show.
yeah. All right. Well, Winnie, what I want to ask you next is I know that you work with individuals through acupuncture and other work. Do you have a success story of somebody that you came to? You talked about the word plumber, whether you're working with them in conversation or in acupuncture, that you saw them really stuck and you helped them kind of get free. You didn't do it for them because you're right, we got to do our own, but how did you help them?
Great question. So one time this person found me on Yelp and said, I had decreased eyesight. It's very scary. I don't understand why I can't see out of my left eye. Can you help me? And I said, well, acupuncture, I can't guarantee. I can't actually make any guarantees, but if you're open to spiritual healing, I can do my best. And when she showed up, I explained that in traditional Chinese medicine, anger is trapped in the liver and liver opens in the eyes. So the first question I asked her is, how long have you had decreased eyesight in your left eye? And she said 3 months. I said, okay, can you tell me what is the thing that pissed you off the most 3 months ago? And this is very important that we be honest and take accountability. And she said, well, 3 months ago, my sister set a boundary with me and she just cut me off. And I'm really angry because who is she to be the judge to decide that I can't talk to her anymore? I said, bingo. Because here's your option. Option A, you have every right to be angry at your sister and you stay angry. Option B, you forgive your sister and you ask your sister for forgiveness because you must have said something that pissed her off that caused her to set boundary and you get your eyesight back. Which one are you going to choose? And she said, I choose my eyesight back. I said, good choice. So we did acupuncture, and I also gave her blessings, because forgiveness is not easy at the mind level, because who is she to decide to set boundaries with me? It's easier when you receive a blessing. And so what is a blessing? A blessing is where I connect to the source, and where the source forgiveness is like a light shower. It's like, imagine you're very muddy and bloody and sweaty. And when you go into the shower, it just washes you clean. So I offer this light shower to her. And then I gave her the assignment. Twice a day, you're going to practice forgiveness for 15 minutes. A month later, she told me, after one session and her homework, that she actually did forgiveness twice a day, 15 minutes, she completely restored her eyesight.
Beautiful.
So
amazing.
It's very interesting, because it doesn't matter that I have the technology of acupuncture. It does not matter I have the technology to offer her this blessing. But if she didn't do her 50%, which is the homework of forgiveness twice a day, then she wouldn't have restored the eyesight.
Yeah, 100%. I believe in the Holy Spirit can heal us, and you're talking about light. I think it is like, it's more than ourselves, right? It's more than ourselves. I just have a couple more quick questions for you. One, what wisdom or advice would you give your younger self? When you were 20, you talked about a lot of different disruptions, from physical to literal to relational. And what advice would you have told yourself as a 20-year-old woman before all these disruptions? What do you wish you knew that maybe you've learned along the way?
Open your heart and let yourself be loved. In my 20s, I believed, if I can only lose 10 pounds, then I will get the perfect job, and I will find the perfect husband, and then I would live happily ever after. I was hung up that I need to lose that 10 pounds. But now I know and love myself unconditionally, regardless of what's happening to the size of my body, the size of my bank account, or who is or is not in my life, right? This unconditional love means it does not matter if I'm good or I'm bad. I am loved. And it's just so simple of opening your heart and allowing other people to love you.
I like that. And just your worth. You are measuring your worth on a lot of different things. So recognizing you're worthy, period, without whatever, And there's nobody perfect. There's no perfect body, no perfect husband, no perfect wife, no perfect career, just no perfect. We're not perfect. Well, Winnie, it's been so fun getting to know a little bit about you. I know my listeners are going to want to know more. What's the best place to connect with you?
Yeah, so my website is mindfulhealingheart.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram as Mindful Healing Heart. And it's very easy to remember, because mindful healing starts from the heart.
Very good. Well, thank you for all your wisdom today, and your ideas and your thoughts and experience. Thank you to our listeners for being with us today. And we hope you continue to spread hope, health, and happiness in sometimes our hurting world. Thank you, Winnie. Take care, everybody.
Love you.
Is think about how we can support people, and that it's okay to say no, but also, like, I'll be your accountability partner, but all I can give you is a text every other Tuesday. I can't walk with you twice a week. My plate is full too. It is more respectful to say, I'm sorry I can't, than to say yes and set someone up to fail. Does that make sense? All right. I want you to think about health. Next time someone says, are you healthy? I want you to think about all 7 of these areas, not just my physical health, not just a number on the scale, because I never helped the thousands of clients I worked with lose weight because I didn't care about a number on a scale, but I helped clients change their habits, change their self-talk, and a side effect was weight loss. I helped them get their finances and their relationships in order. I helped them with what they said about themselves to themselves, and it changed everything. But my favorite area of your hearts is happiness. And so what I'd like you to do is think about what makes you happy. And you can write it in that heart or write it in the back. I love for you to come up with at least 10 things that make you happy, from rainbows to sunshine, from fresh baked cookies to cuddles with puppies, whatever it is that brings you happiness.